Well, look, thanks for coming by. Enjoy your time up here. I think I'm going to see if I get Mr. Pritchard to get up and make his way on over here. You want to come on over, Ron? I saw you two shooting the breeze over there. Was he giving you any wrestling stories? Or
Not yet. We just started talking.
You know, he's got a background in wrestling that I think is pretty cool. And he was in the NFL in the late 60s, the Sun Devil in the 60s. The wrestling side of it is like one of those little untold secrets. So we'll visit with him. I think he's making his way on over here. I'll let you get up.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, hey, thanks for coming by, Mike.
Thank you.
Good seeing you. It's Mike Pollock for a couple of minutes. Appreciate him coming by. Ron Pritchard's making his way over. ASU linebacker, back in the glory days, as they like to say. But the wrestling side of it is the part that interests me. And then you're telling me off, Mike, you're at Valley Christian. I did not know that.
Well, I've been over there for 2 years now, and Coach Allen is the head coach over there, and I just like the environment. I'm a Christian, and I like the environment. I like to be around that stuff.
It's the first time up here, Ron?
First time up at this course, yes.
So have you been at this event before?
No, I haven't.
It's really not good. I mean, it gets out of control. I think that's the only way to put it. It's going to get a little dicey here the next couple
days.
You know,
you go to hell for lying, the same as stealing. So,
tell me about when Coach Cush walks in here later today and your playing time. Talk about him a little bit and your thoughts on when you were at ASU. And
well, I've always got to be careful when I talk about Frank. It's pretty well known that people around in the inner circle that we just butt heads somehow. We just, I respect Frank, and hopefully he respects me. And the thing I like to say is that I realize more now maybe how he coached and the way he coached than I did then. Although I disagree with a lot of stuff and how he approached things, but at the same time, I realize that here's a guy, a grown man coaching young kids, and he's depending on their performance for his paycheck. And so that'll make you do things that maybe differently than I might like.
Yeah.
But his records speak for itself. The great thing is he brought me to Arizona State. I've met lifelong friends that I'll always have, and that's always the good part, is always the other players.
Sure.
Really, honestly.
Who do you look forward to seeing when you get back to events like this from your playing days?
Any of the guys. Well, I won't see a lot of guys my age, but I'll look forward to seeing Jeff Van Rapport if he's here, or Randall McDaniel. I've got to know those guys through different things.
Randall's going to be here. Jeff is not.
Jeff is not, but okay, Jeff has been up here before, I know.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. It's just good to see the guys that know that we've gone through the same deal. Maybe not in the same era, but it's still football. And so it's always good to see, especially the guys who really, I think, had left a legacy of the school. They'll always be there.
Ron Pritchard with us for a couple of minutes talking Sun Devil football and ASU athletics. We are up here at the 5th Annual White Mountain Steak Fry and Golf Tournament. Brad Sussmat, pros2preps.com on Extra Sports 910, the Valley Sports Leader, as we roll on with Ron Pritchard. Wrestling, I mentioned this.
Yes.
When you left ASU, you went to the NFL with Houston. Where did wrestling come into play, and what exactly did you do for those that aren't aware?
Well, it was a connection with another ASU guy, Bob Luke, who's a big dairy farmer out here now, and Bob was a great player and went up to Canada and became an all-pro up there. And Bob was wrestling with the great family, the Stu Hart family up there in Calgary. And so Bob's a very dear friend of mine, my closest friend, and he said, come on up and visit. So my wife and I went up and visited. Took a couple workouts, a couple hour workout in Stu's basement, and I think that night we were in somewhere on the coast wrestling. I was the heavyweight champion of collegiate champion, and I was going to break into business with the great Stu Hart, and that's how that started. And so I did that about 5 or 6 years on the off season.
Where did it take you? What?
The NFL tag allowed me to really get on matches that are already built by the headliners. And so I would tag along with, actually, Ernie Ladd's a very, very dear friend of mine.
Ernie Ladd, sure.
Yeah, very dear
Big
friend
Ernie.
of mine. Big Ernie.
Yep.
And bless his heart, he's passed away, but I'll see him again one day. But Ernie helped me go learn the ropes, and it was a really great gig. It was a good gig. I'm not bashful, and so you're up there having it's playtime, and you're either the good guy or the bad guy. And
do you have a nickname?
No, I just would go by my own name, but the tag of the NFL, we would always want that on there.
Ron Pritchard of the NFL.
Well, kind of, so back then everybody tried to keep everything secret. But now when the McMahons have, Vince McMahon especially has taken over, it's a sports entertainment.
Yeah,
and,
sure.
And so
sure.
so no one, there's not that hardened wrestling fan no more that you try to keep it quiet that this is not for real.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but
It was all real?
Yeah. Well, you're really bleeding, but you're cutting yourself actually to bleed. You're not getting hit. You're cutting yourself with a blade and stuff like that. Little nuances of the.
I'll have to look
sport.
for that next time. Do you have any others? Little tricks.
Yeah, well, they're always stomping the floor to get the sound effect when they're hitting somebody. It's really an art form in a lot of ways. Honestly, it is. You've got the promoter runs everything, and they set the matches and all that, and they build up. Now they've got more television, all that. So it's a big deal. I'm a little concerned about the vulgarity you see in it.
Sure.
But other than that, it's still the same old stuff.
You were on the front end of it. What, if you don't mind me asking?
Kinda.
And then you tell me if I'm sure you'll tell me if I do. How much money did you make per match?
Not very much. I would wrestle like, as an example, I would wrestle on Tuesday in Atlanta. I may fly to Detroit on Wednesday, come back to Houston on Saturday night, and maybe hit a spot show somewhere else. There may be 3 or 4 matches a week on the off season, and maybe I might average. And I wasn't a headliner, so I might average only back then. I don't know, $400 or $500 a week. So it was
$50 a day,
yeah.
$100 a day, probably.
Well, it didn't go. They'll pay for your flights and everything. They let me fly. Most of back then, everybody flies now, but back then they would get on the road day after day, night after night. I didn't have to do that. They'd fly me in, pay my way, and I took care of my incidentals, and then they would fly me back home. And so that's what I do. I'd be in Detroit working for the Sheik, or working for Paul Bosch down in Houston, wherever, working out in San Francisco for a guy named, I think his name was Ray Shires at the time. And so I would get to go everywhere. And it's because of the NFL tag. I mean, I was still active in the NFL. And Ernie and Wahoo McDaniels and all these guys used that same tag when they were doing it.
That's great. Appreciate you coming by. Enjoy your weekend.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's good visiting with you. Ron Pritchard with us.